Bill Gates dropped out of Harvard, made his company Microsoft. What about hundreds others who tried the same thing?
Be objective.
They'll think Elon Musk is an entrepreneur, Zuckerberg is an entrepreneur.
They could afford it.
American dream was not built on W-2 paychecks.
Financial freedom was so important that not depending on your 9 to 5.
Your why is very important.
How critical it is for financial management.
You need to have a very strong reason, motivation. You get the great idea, raise $20 million. That's not reality, really. Startups fail is actually because they run out of cash.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Khurram, welcome to this first podcast that we're doing, and everyone who's watching. My name is Ali Farouk, and I have a special guest here, Khurram Agha, and we are trying to start something new. It's a podcast series. Primarily, we are looking to do it as part of Open Texas and Open Dallas. So without any, more spending time on it, I would like to introduce Khurram. Khurram, if you can introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and about your background.
Assalamu alaikum. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. This is a beautiful center. I really appreciate the services you guys have here. So my name is Khurram. I originally am from Lahore. After my A-levels from HSN, I went to Canada. I went to McGill University and I did computer engineering. So as luck would have it, I'm a computer engineering major, which means I never took any software courses. But then I ended up at Microsoft working on software. So for some people who think Microsoft software had lower quality, well, that explains it, right? We didn't even hire software people. But alhamdulillah, I was at Microsoft for almost 17 years. So I was in Seattle starting from 2001 till 20 years later. And Microsoft was a blessing for me career-wise. And if I tell my friends that if I'm ever 22 years old again, I would do it all over again.
Wow.
The same way, no regrets. Alhamdulillah, it was a very blessed career for me over there. Great network, great learning, great mentors. I have very fond memories of my time at Microsoft. So I did many things at Microsoft. I started with the Windows operating system. I did networking. I worked on some very popular products and I worked on some very forgettable products also. So I was the networking manager for Windows Phone. And nobody really used Windows Phone. But I had the time of my life on Windows Phone. It was the most learning I've had. It was like a compressed MBA. I also worked on Azure. So I owned every capacity decision that was happening in Azure. But my most notorious role was in Windows Update. So we forced, if you remember, this is maybe 10 years ago, everybody from Windows 8 was forced to Windows 10. And even if you clicked the box empty or closed it, it still went through. That was our team that did that. So that's not something I'm very proud of, but it was something we did at Microsoft. So after all these, I was thinking to myself that I started as a 22-year-old and now I am 16 years here. Is this it for me? Is this my ceiling? And I didn't want as a 35-year-old for that to be my ceiling. So I did an MBA at that time. So I went to school. I did a full Wharton MBA.
You went to Wharton?
I went to Wharton.
So you actually moved to?
So it was actually an executive program,
okay.
which meant I was flying to San Francisco twice a month.
Yeah.
So it was a full-time MBA, twice a month in California. I did 50 flights between Seattle and San Francisco. So kudos to my wife. I'm very grateful for her. I had 2 young kids. I was still working at Microsoft and on my MBA. But 2014 to 2016, that was the best time of my life when I was doing all this. I was most energetic, the energy, the learning, just very blessed for that. So after the Wharton MBA and my Microsoft career, this, in Urdu we say keeda, or this bug of entrepreneurship came into me. I couldn't shake it off.
Almost like midlife crisis.
I was too early for a midlife crisis, I hope. The germs of entrepreneurship had started a while ago. And it became because when we all started at Microsoft, we made some money, we had 401ks, we were investing. And one fine morning, I see this tax return, 1099, where I had bond income or interest income. And that led me to this rat hole of thinking, but I thought interest was not something Muslims took.
Yeah.
And I'm not judging here. I'm not making a halal haram decision or anything, but I was just curious, like, why is it that we're doing this? And then I started to talk to my friends and talk to my network, and we realized that, many of us are actually making suboptimal financial decisions for ourselves just because we don't want to touch interest. Yeah. And that led me down to founding Aagaz Investments, which was an investment management firm. So we could still do goals-based investing and all of the compounding and everything, but do it according to Sharia or Islamic principles. So I started that company. I left Microsoft for it. That was a very interesting choice in retrospect. But again, zero regrets about it. I mean, again, if I'm 30, whatever, 8 years old, I would do it all over again. So I'm a no regrets guy. So Aagaz was great, alhamdulillah. I raised VC money. Our numbers were good. We doubled our metrics, AUM, number of users, month over month. I also was in the middle of my second round when COVID happened and VC funding sort of dried up. Yeah. So I've seen it all, starting a business, leaving a career, starting a business, raising funds on cloud 9, no funding, marketing gone, team laid off, then building it back up. And then once it all felt that I was gone, it was done, an acquisition. So then I was acquired by Manzil. So now I'm working with Manzil as a chief investment officer for Manzil. So that's a longer ramble on my career.
Wow, it's quite a lot. I think 2 or 3 interesting points that I gathered from that, like when you think about fail fast or failure, and you're talking about Microsoft phones and then talking about Azure, which is probably the most profitable thing Microsoft did. So you're probably part of both aspects, where you saw ups and downs. And then every person at some point of their life goes through, well, what am I doing? Why should I not do it myself? But then he needs to have the courage to actually execute and initiate that, and you did that, and then you need to have an idea, which a lot of times the good startup founders always say just comes from your own daily life, something that happens, and from there you go. So it seems like that also happened in this part where you picked up interest in how you can help others. It's a great journey. So it seems like we have a lot to learn from you of how you were able to make that call, because a lot of what we want to discuss as part of this podcast series is to encourage others to be entrepreneurial. And a lot of that depends on initiative taking and making the big decision of maybe not depending on your 9 to 5 and having that difficult struggle time in between and just take the first step, right? So maybe if you can go a little bit double click on that and tell us a little bit more how that initiative was taken and what really happened in the first 6 months when you took the move.
So I was passionate about what I was doing. And it's actually interesting. One of the VCs, when I was raising funds and I was pitching my startup to them, so this VC listens to me. I still remember this conversation very vividly. So he asked me, that was the only question he asked. He's like, what happens if Aagaz fails? And I didn't anticipate this question. This is not what VCs usually ask. They're not talking about failure scenarios. Yeah. So I didn't miss a beat and I said, I'll start another startup in Islamic finance. That was my mission, right? Wow. So for many years, I wasn't doing it to make a quick buck or to exit quickly. I just felt that Islamic finance was a mission which would outlast me. So I just wanted to contribute a little bit towards its early initial phases so that there could be more entrepreneurs and we could take this mission even after I'm no longer here. That was really my why, if you want to call it that. So the first lesson for me is that your why is very important. If you're doing it just because your peers are doing it, or just because it sounds cool to be called a startup founder, or you want to manage your own time, as people say, these are some reasons why people are entrepreneurs. These are bad reasons. At the first sign of adversity, these whys are gone. So you need to have a very strong reason, motivation, why you're doing it. And for me, it was clear. I couldn't believe that my faith, Islam, could be blocking me from making and investing my money. I refused to accept that. And people were doing that. People were putting money in gold, buying real estate, and then 2008 happens and your real estate investment is gone. Yeah. So it's not Islam or our rules that were wrong, it's how we were approaching it. That became my mission or why.
Yeah, and I think another lesson learned from this is how critical it is for financial management as we are working towards, whatever we are earning, and how we should plan on daily basis to best optimize ourselves. Because a lot of time we underdo ourselves without thinking through, and we need to probably start these campaigns for people to understand. Any general person, doesn't have to be just the set of Muslims or Pakistanis, but everyone, that how critical it is. And I think that's where this passion came through too. Like, I want to do something, there's passion. And once there's passion, then the first step is very easy to take. It seems like that's what you're saying. And you're so committed that if it would have failed, you would have moved on to something else.
Right, exactly. But the other thing to think about there is that you have to be smart about doing it. It's not that, the Silicon Valley culture or what we see in Silicon Valley, the show, or in movies, whatever, that, you get the great idea, you hire a couple of friends, you live in a garage, eat pizza, and raise $20 million. It's happening in the AI field these days, but that's not reality, really. So I actually didn't wholesale jump on my idea. I was still employed at Microsoft. Actually, I was at Oracle at that time. And I was working on my startup on the side on weekends or whatever. So I made sure that I had the financial backing or framework to be able to last me. Because the number one reason startups fail is actually because they run out of cash. It's actually not that my product market fit wasn't there, my team had some struggles. Yeah, those are issues also. But the number one reason is that you had $20 and 3 months, and 3 months went, and your $20 can't pay your bills anymore. So then you go back to Amazon or you go back to Microsoft, because that's reality. So I wanted to make sure that I was financially set for a little while so that I could focus on my startup without jumping back to Microsoft at the first sign of adversity. So that's, I think, one mistake people make, where they let their passion, their emotions run their practical choices. And that was a mistake.
But isn't it usually said that unless you burn the bridges and, from the perspective of that you cannot walk back, and really fully step into this world, you'll never be successful. That's pretty common that I hear across the board.
It's a good academic theory, but tell me people who do it like that. And sure, some people will be successful. Bill Gates dropped out of Harvard. He made his company Microsoft like that. So did Zuckerberg. But then what about the hundreds others who tried the same thing, who burnt their bridges, who burnt all their ships on the shore, so there's no way back? How many of those success stories are there? So academically, it makes good sense for what you said.
Yeah.
But I actually think we are a practical species. We are planful. We work on plans and sprints and Jira stories and all that, right? So we can't just be very emotional about it. Startup is I think if you ever go talk about what did I learn from my startup journey, that's a completely different discussion. I think one of the things I really learned the hard way, but I wish I had learned earlier, and I hope other startup entrepreneurs learn it, is that you got to take your emotion out of it.
Be objective.
You have to be very objective. That's a very good word.
Yeah.
You have to be passionate.
Yeah.
You have to be mission oriented.
Yeah.
But you can't let your emotions run it, because then you become stubborn. Then you make mistakes. That's a problem.
So for the people, of course, I just want to say that we are going to talk about all of these topics in detail, because there's a lot about the financial, balance that you need to think about before you go into a startup. He mentioned PMF and many other things about the idea. So we want to go there, but this was more about the introduction for Khurram. And it seems like that you made a financial call, and you mentioned Mark Zuckerberg, but they were students at that time. They were dropouts and they could afford it because they didn't have a family.
Sure.
So depending on the age and cycle where you are in your life, you might have to do it differently. So it's always could be created. Doesn't like, there's no standard for doing a startup. There's some balance.
One size is no fit all for this.
Maybe there's certain levers that we will be hopefully coaching here as well through the different people we bring on this forum, and starting with you, that people can use so that they can think through how they should run the startup. And in my case, by the way, it's the same way that I think financial freedom was so important that whatever I'm doing is really on the side until I understand how we will make 0 to 1 and from 1 to 2, so that I can understand this is how the revenue is coming, and now maybe I can take some steps forward for that. So that's really good introduction. And I know you talked about, and obviously you're president for Open here in Texas. Tell us a little bit about your Open journey. We don't want to talk about Open Dallas right now. We'll do it in the second sitting. But right now, just a little bit from there, that you had a startup, you went into Manzil, and it seems like you're doing really well there. And if you want, you can share a little bit about some of your success, because I know there's a fund that you released. Talk a little bit about that, then also how you joined Open and how that has helped you so far.
So a little bit about what I'm doing at Manzil, although this is just the lessons I've learned in my journey there so far. So it's not about pushing or promoting my own products here. But we are basically at Manzil. I'm the portfolio manager and investment officer. So we've recently launched a new ETF. So I've had enough of my share of SEC lawyers. I have talked to them compliance-wise. I've done a lot of lawyer stuff also. But I feel very grateful that we are one of the very, very few fully Islamic and ethical ETFs that were launched. And we're doing well. It's only 2 months and our AUM is growing very well over there as well. So that's my primary job right now. So not only am I running their tech and all, I'm also the compliance officer and investments officer. So we're launching all these things.
And when we talk about startups, everyone who's watching, we will also talk about some of these things, the requirement of compliance and regulations, especially when you're looking at fintech. And we actually, because of a little bit of our background in fintech, can go a little bit deep on this RIAs and IARs as well. But it seems like when you go and invest in the fund, you can be confident that it's a Sharia compliant fund, that the one that's offered. So that's something for people, if you're interested, you can go to Manzil and also research and find out Khurram at LinkedIn and be able to understand a little bit more if that's the way how you want to grow, your funds and your wealth and diversify as well. So tell us a little bit about about Open and how you became part of it.
So let me focus on the E part of Open. So Open is an organization of Pakistani Entrepreneurs Network or something like that, right? Whatever, it's a long mouthful. Entrepreneurship, that's actually a very interesting word. So if you ask 20 random people, go to a college class or in young professionals, ask them, what's an entrepreneur? And they'll think Elon Musk is an entrepreneur, Zuckerberg is an entrepreneur. Well, what about that dude on Main Street who has 5 laundromats, who's netting $1 million free cash flow? Is he an entrepreneur?
Absolutely.
Right. What about this startup guy who has negative or even Uber for the first many years, losing $1 billion a quarter? Is that entrepreneurship? So what exactly is entrepreneurship? So I actually think entrepreneurship is more business ownership. Startups are also a business. Venture scale is a startup which VCs can invest in, and you can go from 0 to 1, as you said, then 1 to 2, but then 2 to 1,000.
Yeah.
That's really a venture scale startup. We can talk more about that separately.
Yeah.
But to me, one thing that I think, and let's focus on the Pakistani community a little bit, because that's what I know most. I think we have done a very disservice where we have associated our careers and our success to just the W-2 we get from a Microsoft or a Facebook, Meta, or an Amazon.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's great. We learn a lot. This is a great financial setting and all that. But I actually think that we haven't been coached on passive income streams, on business ownerships. This is what made the American dream. American dream was not built on W-2 paychecks or bonuses at the end of the year and then bam, a layoff. It doesn't work like that. Small business ownership is what really drives America, more than any other country, really. So for me, I was passionate about understanding that if I didn't have this dependency on a W-2 paycheck, how else do people survive and how else do they thrive and grow? And that's what took me to the entrepreneurship aspect. So when you talk about Open is about people. Some of the Open members are still Amazon employees or Microsoft employees. But we are also focused on business ownership, on venture capital, on investing in businesses, on private equity, on things like that where it's not just that you have to make an AI startup to be called an entrepreneur. So that's what drives me. I am passionate about myself and helping others gain financial freedom through non-paycheck avenues. And that's what I found in Open. And that's also what I want to promote in Open as well.
So, I mean, I want to state that it's really important that entrepreneurship means that if you even think about it from a passive standpoint, is very, very important for people to consider, because you don't want to be dependent on your 9-to-5 job. And if something happens, God forbid, then, you don't want to come on the road. So if you start thinking about, the safety net, the financial freedom, these small businesses, these entrepreneurship mindset will really help us to go to that level. And that's probably what you're saying Open was founded for.
So Open, the global Open brand, that was founded I think 30 years ago or something. So it's a global brand. It has different chapters. So each chapter is its own entity, which just sort of is a subchapter of the larger organization. So there's like 13 or 14 chapters. There's 3 in Pakistan, Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad. There's some in Toronto, UK, new ones in Germany. But in the US itself, all the major cities, Seattle, Bay Area, SoCal, Boston, that's where it started from. Dallas, Houston, Austin. These are 3 chapters. So each of these chapters has its own members, their own charter members who pay their own annual dues or other tiers of membership. And we all, in our local community, we are a networking opportunity for givers and takers. Givers who want to give back like myself. I want to coach others. I want to mentor others and others who are looking for that mentorship, which is what I didn't find when I was in that stage. So that's really the objective of what Open is, that we create opportunities for others. If you're looking for, the other day in my group, somebody asked, I have a need for a CFO. Can somebody link a CFO for me? So things like that. My CPA, my tax guy, the other day he's like, I'm working with a startup which has a valuation in $20 million. I need a professional valuation guy. Can you recommend someone? So I found somebody from our Open network to work with him to do the valuation. So these things are making these facilitations for problem solving for us. And that's really the objective of Open.
Got it. I think, Khurram, this gives a great introduction for yourself. We will just end this first podcast with the introduction and move into the second episode where we talk a little bit more about Open Dallas and your vision for that and how it's moving forward. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Khurram, for joining.
I appreciate it. Thank you.